All right. So today let's look at the actual code. So we have looked at AVL insertion at the visual pictorial level where we looked at those four cases. Then we looked at a little concrete level where we instantiated some values using K1, K2 and then actual values using some numbers. Now let's go further down and look at the actual code, which is going to be the most concrete way of looking at it. Okay, so similar to BST, I mean, this code is derived from BST code. So whatever we have done in case of BST, that is all going to be included in the code. In addition, there will be some code which takes care of height balancing. Therefore, we require a tree node, which is going to have some data. In this case, our data type is int, which is comparable. Comparable meaning two instances of that data type can be compared and ordered. We have the left and the right pointers. In addition, what we are maintaining is something called as a height with each node, right? With height in each tree node. That is an important variable because that is going to give us a quick way of checking if a particular node is height balanced or not. Right? How will you do that? Well, you can look at the left subtree height and the right subtree height. And to check, I mean, visually it was very easy for us to check, oh, there is a height imbalance at node 4, right? Because it was one side is 3 length, another side is 1 length, etc. But now, in absence of that visual appeal, it's best, or to concretize that visual appeal, we would like to have a height embedded directly inside the node. Otherwise, we'll have to traverse it and find out, right? So that traversal gets avoided if we keep track of this height. But the downside is that you will have to maintain that height. So whenever there are rotations, we will have to maintain this height for all the nodes involved. Thankfully, it turns out that this height needs to be adjusted only for the nodes along the path where the insertion is height balanced. So therefore, we are usually good with respect to updating this height. Right? It doesn't change the complexity beyond order log n. Then there is a constructor which initializes the data to a particular value. Add child is our function to add a link in this tree. Get height just returns the height. These are called as getter and setter functions, right? So getter and setter functions are typically very small, typically one line, where we get a particular field and set a particular field. Right? That setter is essentially this update height function, but it's not the usual setter where it just does one small update. Right? So you pass a value and just updates it. That is called as a setter. In this case, it does slightly something more. What does it do? Well, it calls update height function with two parameters. What are the two parameters? The left height and the right height. Right? The max of these two plus 1 becomes the update height. Right? So that is the update height function. Bool imbalance returns true if this particular node is imbalanced. Right? And that you can imagine will look at the height variable, height field. Sorry, not the height field. It will look at the left subtree's height and the right subtree's height. That is the left child's height and the right child's height, and decide if this particular node is imbalanced or not. And using that height function, you will be able to check which one is the taller one, the left one or the right one. Right? And that can also be useful because of reorganization. I mean, because of the rebalancing or rotation. Finally, there is something to print. Okay. So as far as the constructor is concerned, it is same as BST, except now that we have to also add that the height is by default going to be 0. And 0 doesn't mean that for empty tree it is going to be 0. 0 means that if there is a single node in the tree, that is only the root, then it should get initialized to 0. The empty tree will be decided by -1 as the height, but of course there is no node in this tree. But this idea that an empty tree, that is should be dictated by height equal to -1, should be there in your mind clearly. That way you will be able to compare against empty tree versus a single node tree, and that can be very useful when we are talking about a left child being null or right child being null. Correct? So there the height should get written as -1, so that there is a clear comparison, because we are always checking against the height difference of more than 1 in case of imbalance, right? So therefore single node has height 0, null subtree has height -1, right? That is one invariant that we need to maintain, that is crucial for correctness. Any questions so far? Okay, so let's move ahead. So maybe I'll first show. Okay, maybe what we'll do is we'll finish the tree node related functions, which is related to the tree, the node of the tree, and then before we look at, we'll also look at the tree API, that is the AVL API, and then before we look at the AVL functions, we will look at the main function. Right? So the toller essentially says that choose the one out of the left and the right child which is taller, which has the larger height, and both of them could be at the same height, in which case choose any one of them. Right? So if left is null, then return right. Correct? So if both are null, choose either. In this case, we choose the right one. If right is null, choose left. Otherwise, so these were the base cases. The inductive case is if left arrow height is greater than the right arrow height, then return left. That is the taller one. Otherwise, just return right. Which means that either the right's height is larger or left and right have the same height, and both of those are non-null. Okay. Any questions on the taller?
Sir, how does this return the taller?
It returns, these are more like greater than equal to. So even if both have the same height, it will return either of them, because that is the application semantics that we require from taller. So whichever is the taller one, whichever has higher height, that will definitely get returned. And if both of them have the same height, then one of them should get returned. That is the semantics that we want. So do you see that some problem occurs in this code?
No, sir, no, got it.
Okay. Any other concerns anybody has? That way, as a good programming practice, since Icharan pointed it out, this function should probably be renamed as taller or equal. Right? So that is the more appropriate function, which name, which gives you the correct semantics. Right? So taller is a little misleading that way. But since in the caller, we will usually be dealing with, okay, which one is the taller one, you just use that. Therefore, I have named it as that way. But yeah, the most appropriate name will be taller or equal. Okay, the updating of height, right, of this particular node. So let's first look at the outside function, right? So this update height function, which is without arguments, is going to be called at multiple places. The way it is going to do is that it is going to look at the left side, right side. So if left subtree is non-null, then it is going to get its height. Otherwise, if it is empty, then it should be -1. Right? So that is what is getting used here. Similarly for the right, so we get the left hand subtree's height, right hand subtree's height, and then we call this function with the left subtree's height and the right subtree's height. This function meaning this function, the second function which has two arguments. What does it do? It just finds the maximum of the two subtrees, adds 1 to it, and that is going to be the height. This height is not a local variable. This height is the variable declared inside that class. So it's an object variable. And that height is getting updated with respect to the heights of its children. And we return it in case that is required in the caller. Okay. So that is our update height function, which is based out of the heights of the left and the right subtrees. And as you can notice, this does have an indication that the height is decided backwards, that is bottom up. First you decide the height of the children, and then you go on propagating that information to the parent, to the grandparent, etc. Imbalanced in AVL case is rather straightforward. So we find out the left height, the right height. And if the absolute difference between the two is exactly 2, we are not saying greater than 1, we are saying it is exactly 2, because in our algorithms that we saw for rotations, we are always tackling the case where the first insert which adds imbalance is the one that gets addressed, and therefore necessarily the height difference becomes 2. It cannot be more than 2. So therefore we are implementing it also strictly. If you want to implement some other height balance trees or self-balancing BSTs, then you might require this to be changed to greater than 1. Add child is what we had earlier, which adds first the left child, then the right child, and then there is a printing, which just prints the data inside that node. Any questions on any of these functions? Three node functions. All right. So we'll look at the tree API, and then we will look at the main. Tree API has become a little larger compared to what we had for BST. So BST, we had all these functions, right? So first thing is the tree should have a root, and then we had all these functions up to insert. Right? Then we had search, find mean, etc. All of these apply to AVL also. It's just that and then there are 4 new functions: left, right rotations, as well as LR and RL rotations. That is one. But in addition, which we have not discussed so far, is that remove implementation is also going to change. Plus the insert implementation is also going to change, because the insert is actually going to call these rotate functions. And as you would have noticed that I have made these rotate functions or rotate primitives as public, because this could be actually used externally also to implement some other additional features. These are not restricted to insert and remove. These are actually more generic functions which can be useful for other facilities also. For example, I mean, just giving an example. In case you want to make the tree such that, I mean, because it is pointer based data structures, the caching effects are little severe, which means that the since the nodes are not getting stored contiguously, therefore the caching does not give as many benefits as it happens in the case of arrays. So let's say that you want to modify that, and that can be probably nicely achieved if you do some sort of rotations, because that is how you are going to access the nodes. So maybe that improves some caching, or that improves some energy efficiency, or whatever. So that could be one way in which externally you could use these particular rotation functions. Okay, so there are a couple of questions. Won't equals to and greater than will give same results? In this case, yes. In whatever we have implemented, it will give exactly the same results, because we'll never reach a case where it is equals 3 or more. But in general, as we will also see in the splay trees, if we go to that, you might want to have a more elaborate function where You are not strict with respect to the AVL part. You allow some sort of imbalance to exist inside the tree. At that time, whether it is imbalanced or not, that might. So, for example, you might side-churn tree might be the one that we might allow. In which case, the height difference can be 2, right, rather than 1. That is also going to be some sort of height balanced tree. Just that you are allowing difference of 2, and that will give you more leeway in terms of. I mean, the rotations you will have to perform probably much fewer times, but of course the amount of work that we need to do per rotation might turn out to be a little more. So that is correct. Anish says, why is the default left and right -1? Shouldn't it be 0? The default ones are for the null. For the single node, we are saying that the height is 0. That is the reason we are initializing it to -1. But you can have a different invariant where you say that the empty one is going to have height 0, single node has height 1, and so on. That is also okay. This is just one way of implementing. Many times the height starts with 0. That's why we have initialized it to 0, -1 for the null. But yeah, this is more like a convention. It's not fixed that it must be -1. Yes, correct. In this case, yes. In this implementation, I am using 0 for the root node or the single node. Any other concerns? All right, we'll move ahead from here and we'll first look at main. So main is currently just using an insert, and then we print it. Then we search for some values, then we insert this and so on, right? So this particular example is exactly, so as far as insertion order is concerned, this is exactly the same as we have seen on the slide, right, where we inserted 3, 2, 1, then 4, 5, 6, 7. These are searches. Then we inserted 16 and 15. Then we inserted some values like this. So whatever we had on the slide, this is what it is. And let's try to print it, right, for now. So I'm just going to compile it. Oops. And print it. So it prints lots of different things which are useful for debugging purposes, for understanding purposes. So we are inserting these values. Whenever I'm inserting 3 and 2, I don't need any rotation. It's just BST vanilla insert. Then right rotate at 3 happens as soon as you are inserting 1, because it becomes 3 right child 2 right child 1. So that is what is dictated here. Insertion of 4 doesn't cause any problem. Insertion of 5 causes left rotate at 3 and so on. At some point in time, I try to print the values to make sure that these are in the BST order. So that becomes this. If you want to actually check that the tree is correctly getting computed, then we'll have to print GraphViz format, and then we can visualize it. Searching for a few values shows that those values are present, and some values are not present. And then we again print the tree after search to make sure that search has not caused any problem. Insertion of 16, 15, etc. happens, and then all of this. So these are the double rotations which happen for 7 and 6, as well as finally at 10. And then the final set of values which get inserted are like this. Right? So that is our insertion, search, and printing in the in-order manner. Okay, so I'm not currently going to print GraphViz, but we'll probably look at it later. Any questions on this part? Okay, so now let's look at a particular function. So remove we'll look at after we have discussed that on the slide. Let's look at, so search is the same as we had for BST. There is no difference. This is searching for a value starting from root. So this search remains the same. So then we look at either the left subtree or the right subtree depending upon the different conditions. Okay, so printing just prints in order manner. In order is in order left, printing the current node and in order, right? Let's look at the insert. Right? What does insert do? It creates a new node and then inserts that node at the root. And that can actually change the root, which was not possible in case of BST except for the root. Right? There also we had root equal to insert PTR comma root. So except for the base case where the first node is getting inserted, it would not result in change of root. However, our AVL insert will, in more cases, will possibly result in change of root whenever there are rotations happening. Right? Therefore, we need to have root update as the return value of insert, and that is very useful because the left and the right subtrees might also change when we do the rotations. Right? So our K2 was pointing to K1 as the child, and when there are rotations, K1 might become the parent, K2 might become its child, and therefore the root of this subtree might change, as we saw last time. So therefore returning the root of the subtree is going to be very useful. Let's look at the elaborate insert, which is again some part of it is the same as the BST part. What is that part? So if you look at this part, that is newly added for the AVL for the if block. So what does it do? If the node, current node of the subtree is null, then I just return whatever is the current pointer to be added, because that means that this particular insertion should happen here. Right? I mean, for example, you traverse the tree, okay, this is less than this, go to the left, right, greater than this, go to the right, and so on. At some point, you are going to reach the null, that is the leaf node's child. At that place, you have to insert the PTR. So we are going to do a BST insert. So this part is actually the BST insert. So we insert it to the left or to the right, and that was what our BST insert was. This part of what happens when if it is imbalanced, or this part, what happens, the corresponding part with respect to imbalance is the newly added part, and then there is an update height function which might be required. Okay. So what does this do if the node is imbalanced, right? So, and you can see how easy it is to understand this code, that whatever, so I have inserted to the left, and now I am checking for if the current subtree root is imbalanced or not. So having that imbalanced function is very useful as a small API, which can actually make the code a little more readable. You can as well add those specific functionality here, that RR arrow left arrow height, if it is greater than RR arrow right arrow height, and so on. So all of this is possible to be done here, but this small primitives help us avoid that duplication at multiple places. Okay. Even this check, this small check, I could have moved as a small function where I check if go to the left like that, or if smaller than left, something like that. That could add more readability to the code. So in this case, I have not done that, but you could try that out as well. So if the data to be inserted is less than RR arrow left arrow data, right, then we are going into that LL case where we are going to the left, and that is the left child, which is because of this left child, or essentially the value is smaller than the RR. So we are going to the left child, and within that we are inserting at the left. We have inserted at the left subtree. Therefore, this becomes LL case. Let me just add that here. So that becomes left case. And this will become left right case. So if it is left, then it is single rotation. So I do a rotate right at the root. Right? So we have been always saying that we do rotate right at the root, and that is what is the subtree root, and that can change the root, and therefore I need to have a return value of RR. Correct? So the RR actually gets updated. RR, although is a local variable, right? RR is a local variable, although it was passed as a pointer, and we are changing that local variable. That is required because later we might want to update the height. although it might so happen that the height will get updated inside rotate right itself. But this update height is more useful when you don't do the rotations. Right? So when we don't do the rotations, also we need to update the height. Right? This point is important, that whenever we don't do the rotate, that time also we might have to update the height, because we might have added 3 as the root. As soon as you add 3 as the root and then 2 as its child, 3's height should get updated from 0 to 1. Right? So 3 is the root, 2 is the left child. 3's height is initially 0. Now when you add 2 as the child, 3's height should get updated. There is no rotation happening. So therefore that update height at line number 156 should get called, right? Irrespective of whether rotation happens or not. Okay. So so then these are the two cases for the left subtree. In a symmetric manner, when you do a right subtree insert, if RR is imbalanced, then we are going to go into two other cases. This is RR case, and this one is RL case. Correct? And accordingly, we might require single or double rotation. Any questions so far? Otherwise, we'll look at one of these or two of these functions. One for single rotate, another for double rotate. Again, the way I'm explaining this, it might look like, okay, this is how it should be implemented, but believe me that one has to go through a lot of careful drawing the pictures, converting it into the code, and getting things wrong and debugging to get this actually implemented. So only because this code is available doesn't mean that you should not try this out. Do try this out on your own. Just look at how we have done it for different examples on the slides and try to implement it. You have also looked at the code now. So, but trying it yourself will actually give you more confidence. All right, as well as better understanding as to why we are doing in a particular manner. And your way of implementing could be very different. So that is perfectly fine, as long as we get the correct output. Okay, so let's look at one of them. Let's look at the rotate right part, where if you recall, we had K2. I don't draw it here. So we had K2 node as the tree node, then it had K1 as its left child, right? And then K1 had X as the child, then there was Y, and then there was, I think, Z above. Right? So K2 had K1 and Z, and K1 had X and Y. And X was the one where we had inserted the new key, that is because of this insert, and because of that there was an imbalance, right? And imbalance required us to move or rotate X, K1, K2 in the right direction. So that was our rotate right at line number 44, well, line number 45, 145. So that is what we will look at. So please remember this diagram, because I am in the text window, so I am not able to show the slide. But remember this, that K2 is the root node, K1 is its left child, and then K1's left and right. So, and then this gets converted into, this becomes K1, this becomes X, K1's right child becomes K2, and K2's left child becomes Y, and right child continues to be Z. And that X, although I have drawn above, actually it has one larger height compared to Y and Z, and therefore it's actually going to be at the same level as YZ. I hope that is understood. In a similar manner, X was adding imbalance here, so it's actually below one level than Y. I hope you are able to see that. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask. All right. So in this case, we are going to do this right rotation. Let's look at that right rotate. Maybe I'll just copy this. We might require that for discussion. Okay, let's come to rotate right. Okay, there are some print statements just for the sake of our understanding of the code, but let's look at, so K2 is the root node that is being passed, right? That is where the rotation needs to happen, right? So this is rotate right, so single rotation. K1 is the one which is on the left, which is what we have here. So we do a pointer manipulation to do the rotation, which is what is happening in the second tree. What does it do? It says that K2 arrow left, right? K2 arrow left, which was actually K1. We have pointer to K1 that we have stored, so we can update K2 arrow left. That is now K1 arrow right, so that maintains the BST property. So Y gets exchanged. Y gets adopted from K1 to K2, from K1's right child to K2's left child, and then K1 arrow right becomes K2, right? So that is also the link that we establish here. Is this clear? Any questions on this part, first part? Okay. Now we update the height based, because we have done the rotations. K1 was at some height here. Now K1 has changed the height. As far as K2 is concerned, that has also changed the height. So we need to update their heights. As far as X, Y, and Z are concerned, their heights are not changing. As far as X, Y, and Z are concerned, their heights do not change in this case, and therefore we don't require updating of their heights. What we require is the updation of heights of K1 and K2 alone, and therefore we do, in this case, we first do an update of K2's height. Since Y and Z, their heights are not changing, therefore it just takes the two values. Update height was looking at the left and right subtree's heights and updating the height of K2. So K2's height actually reduces. We could have as well said K2's height is minus minus of the K2's height, right? So that is also possible. In this case, I'm just reusing the primitive that we have defined. It just looks at the two subtrees and updates the height to 1 plus max of the two subtrees. I also don't need to really do a max between the two, because Y and Z are guaranteed to have the same height, okay, as we have seen on the slide. Now I need to update the height of K1, right? So there are just two cases. X could be null or non-null. It so happens that X is unlikely that it will be null, right? So but anyway, this particular code is going to work irrespective of whether null X is null or not. Oh, sorry, yeah, that is correct. So if K1 arrow left, which is X, is null, okay, let's take the else part first. If it is null, then I am going to take the height of the right subtree, and the left subtree's height is going to be -1. And I take the max of the two, add 1 to it, and that becomes K1's height. Is this understood? So if X is null, I take that height as -1, that is our invariant. I take K2's height, and I take the max of the two, add 1 to it, that becomes K1's height, right? When it is non-null, then I need to just take the left height, then the right height, add 1 to it. Even if I would have passed this function without any parameters, that is also okay, because K1's right child is updated, so it's going to take K2's height, and K1's left child is whatever is X, that is also possible. So even if I would have directly added, done here, K1 arrow update height, and ignore this part, that would have also been okay. Right? So I think I have done it in a difficult manner. So then K1 and K2's height get updated, and the new root of this rotate right is K1, Earlier it was K2. So the new root needs to be written. Right? So that is what is the code for rotate right. Any questions on this particular part? Okay, and now you can observe the complexity of rotate right very easily. Right? So these are just pointer updates. Update height is a single call which just looks at the left and the right trees heights, and this is also just looking at the two values and finding the max, adding 1. So all of this is order 1 operation. As far as this primitive is concerned, that is order 1, and same is going to be the case for the other 3 primitives. The issue that comes up is with respect to how many update heights you require. Right? And that is anyway going to be decided by the BST insertion and update height inside that, which is anyway going to require height of the AVL tree maybe at max +1, and therefore it is going to be order log n. Right? Plus the initial traverser that you require to insert the node, that was also order of height. And now you can see the connection with respect to why did we say that in case of BST it was order height rather than order n, because now we can use that to say that since the height is at max log n +1, therefore the complexity of insert, be plain vanilla insert as well as AVL insert, is going to be order height and therefore order log n. Okay, so let's look at this rotate left right as one option, and it's actually rather simple. You just make 2 calls. So that rotate left right was happening at K1. So I'm calling that root node as K1. I do a left rotate on the left subtree. Right? So that just calls rotate left on the left subtree, and the root might change, and therefore I need to update K1 arrow left. Once I have done that, then I need to do a right rotate at K1, and whatever is its root, new root, that should get written. Right? So that way left and right rotations are that way relatively simple. Even this one is simple once you understand what is happening on the slide. Right? So if you have understood this part, understanding these pointer updates is not a problem. Even this update height is just calling it after pointer manipulation happens so that you can move the height upwards, right? Updation of height upwards. Any questions so far? Okay, I hope I did not intimidate you with the code, but yeah, so I'll leave reading the remaining part, that is the right left part and the rotate left part as exercises for you. I think that is just symmetric to what we have seen so far. And then what is remaining is essentially remove. That is what we are going to study now. So let me come back to the slides. And meanwhile, if there are any questions, feel free to ask by the time I pull up the slides. Okay, so this is where we were. Okay, there is a question. How we will check AVL properties maintained in the above tree in the code while updating the child node? Yes, that is correct. So many times it so happens that the way we write the code is at too low level that the algorithmic aspects get hidden into the implementation, and we are not able to see exactly how that is happening. And what Abhishek is asking is that how do we say that this code is actually adhering to the algorithm that is that we discussed in the class? So at the visual or the abstract level, we were able to see that, okay, height is maintained and so on, but that we need to prove in some way, right? So that proving happens at the algorithm level. Proving that the code is adhering to a certain discipline, that is the algorithm, that is a separate goal. That requires, I mean, in general, the way we validate it, not verify it, the way we validate it using testing, where we run it on some test cases and say, okay, I have good confidence that this code works. We check all the end cases, etc. But in case of verification, which is what is required when you want to prove, you will have to show that this code actually is performing or maintaining certain invariants which are dictated by the algorithm. So software verification is a relatively new field, which requires that the code that you have written is proved to be correct. Correct meaning it given certain preconditions of the code. If I give you these set of statements, then the expected post conditions are met. This part is something which is also part of the PDS when we teach it to the CS batch. So that part is the one which we have actually omitted. If somebody is interested, you are welcome to look at the correctness slides, which I might have on the previous instance of PDS. But yeah, so that is a separate property. We are not able to prove that in general. Even if when I write a simple program which just prints, let's say, nth Fibonacci number, I can't prove it. I mean, I don't prove it. It's just that it's a very intuitive, vague argument in our minds which says that, okay, I'm doing something similar to what I have studied on the slide or in the textbook, and that is what happens. But in this case, we can do some small checks, right? If not the complete proof, we can do some small checks. Let me let me just go back to the code. I'll show that a little bit because this question came up. This is something which I wanted to, but I omitted. Do that. Yeah. We had our tree somewhere. Yes. So let's decide what the heights of these trees are going, heights of these elements are going to be, and that will give you some indication what all is happening. So let's say that this is at height h plus 1. X is at height h plus 1. So we said that y is at height h, right? Z is at height h. Height meaning how much from the leaf of that subtree, how many levels are there, right? So that we call as height. So we count from the bottom, right? So we said that y and z have the same heights. K1 is at height h plus 2, and therefore K2 is at height h plus 3. Is this okay? Any questions on this one? I have written it correctly? Okay. So if that is the case, and that is the one that happens because of which there is a difference in the heights of the two subtrees, right? So the left subtree is at height h plus 2, the right subtree is at height h, and therefore there is a difference of 2, and therefore there is imbalance. What we are saying, because of the way we are doing the insertions, is that x doesn't change, and therefore it continues to remain at height h plus 1. Y doesn't change, so it remains at height h. Z doesn't change, and it remains at height h. What is the height at K2? Right? So it is going to be h plus 1, which was actually at height h plus 3 after the insertion. What was the case before insertion? Before we inserted the value at x, the height was h plus 2, and therefore it was height balanced because K1 was at height h plus 1 and the right child was at height h, therefore the tree was balanced before we inserted the value in x. This is the value which is happening after insertion. And K1 now becomes at height h plus 2, which is balanced on both the sides, and more importantly, or equally importantly, it is at the same height. So this subtree rooted at K1 is at the same height as it was before this value was inserted in X, because K2 was this subtree which was rooted at K2 was at height H plus 2, and that is what we are bringing back, and therefore there is no further update required above this subtree. And therefore this cannot cause any other imbalance in any other part of the subtree. Right? This part we didn't really prove, but if you work with these heights, then you will be able to figure that out. And therefore the number of updates, if you recall that first slide where we said that in general you might require log n rotations or log n updates all the way in the tree, but we will show that only 2 rotations are sufficient. And that is precisely what we are showing by augmenting these nodes with their heights. I hope this part is clear. This is something which I didn't talk about, but I thought that since Abhishek has asked this question, we are maintaining actually that AVL property by looking at what exactly we are doing with respect to the pointer manipulation and then the updation of height. Abhishek, does that make sense? Or
Yes, sir, my question is that after updating means after rotating first time, we should check above all the nodes that it is balanced or not.
Okay. So that is the important piece here, that X is not changing. The height of a subtree will change if there is any update if there is any insertion or removal within that subtree. As far as X subtree is concerned, that is K1 arrow left in the original tree, there is no update in that tree. Update meaning there is no insertion or removal in that subtree, and therefore X continues to remain as it is, and so is Y and so is Z. Therefore, starting with the premise that X, Y, Z's heights do not change, the only heights which are changing in this left rotation are the heights of K1 and K2. That we can prove, and nothing beyond, because we are restoring the height of this subtree to H plus 2, which was the case before insertion of the value inside X.
So my question is that in the previous class when we are doing means parent node is also unbalanced, and then also below the node that is imbalanced. So first we are rotating at the child, and then after we are going and rotating at the parents.
Correct.
So we are here doing 2 rotations. So how we are doing this code?
Yes. So what we just saw is only for the rotate left case, which is useful in the right insertion. Right? So or maybe this particular part that we saw was with respect to the left case. If we have to do rotate left right, actually that is a concatenation of 2 rotations. One you perform a left and one you perform the right. This requires us to find out if there is imbalance at, so the imbalance is going to be at one node only. That still we can prove, right? Imbalance is going to be at one node. It is not going to result in further imbalance. That is the important part with respect to AVL updates, AVL rotations. That we have not really proved, but I gave some small argument at least in the rotate right case. So in case of right left and left right cases, it's a concatenation of 2 values, 2 primitives. And if the height of, let's say, if the height of K1 equals H plus 2 initially, then height of K1 continues to remain H plus 2 at the end of this rotation, and height of new K1 or new root is also going to be H plus 2 after the rotate right. This part we can prove, because rotate left we just saw, rotate right we just saw it maintains the height. Similarly, we can prove that for rotate left, and therefore the height does not change of this subtree after the double rotation also, and therefore it does not result in the further update in the parents or the ancestors. Right? So that we'll have to show, but as you can see, it is going to be easy to prove that once we have one case added. So once we have found one imbalance node, that is the only one which can get tackled. And after rotations, we are going to update only some nodes, constant number of nodes in that subtree. We are not going to require an update further above, right? Although we are doing that, and that gets still subsumed in the context of log n height, because we will be calling update height here in the insert. So we are calling it recursively for every node in the path to the insertion happening, and therefore we will call update height at all the places, although many times it's not really required. It's required only at let's say maximum 4 places in the path below the imbalance node. It doesn't happen anywhere above. Okay. Any other concerns here? Abhishek, is there any still further doubt?
No.
Okay. In case something is unclear, please look at it offline and come back to me if there is something required to be discussed. All right, so we'll stop here, and I'll wait for any further questions. Okay, so if there are no further questions, we'll stop here. See you in the next class.